the seat and fill in. We'll go ahead and get started. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time because most of us are here on our lunch hour. So thank y'all for coming and happy February. Hopefully you're all bundled up and your New Year's resolutions are going well. Yesterday was actually the day that New Year's resolutions die. I don't know if anybody saw that on the news yesterday. And so I figured today would be the day that I would actually make some New Year's resolutions. So I don't know how many of y'all are with me that have decided today would be the day you would actually make some New Year's resolutions. But I'm very excited to see you all here. So excited about the panel that we have today. We are going to have very limited announcements because the panel is so amazing and I have so much to say that we really just wanted to get to the meat of the meeting today. I did want to make a quick announcement regarding what is in your seat. And the first thing is your ballots. February is voting. So please take a minute to look at the slate. I am not Reagan Kane. She is not here. To look at the slate, vote for the slate. You will select 5 of the 8 women who are on the slate for our nominating committee. Those women are the ones who look at your leadership interest surveys and your willingness to serve surveys, and they make the determination for who is going to sit on our executive board in the future. So it's very important that you carefully consider your 5 choices, as well as if you flip the back of your ballot, there is a motion regarding fundraising. This is not a bylaw change. This is actually in addition to our bylaws, because if we are going to present any new fundraisers to you, we need to say, hey, we would like to have new fundraisers and we need your support in order to do that. The reason that we are doing that is we are on the cusp of our 100th. It might seem like it's an incredibly long time away, but next year is 95. And Lauren and her team have exciting plans to kick off 95 in advance of our 100th. In order to do that, there's a fundraising component that we would like to add, so our current fundraisers are not tapped from doing the work of the league on an ongoing basis. So in order to make the gift that we would like to make to this community, and we want it to be significant and impactful and amazing, and it's going to be, we need to supplement with some additional fundraising. So that's really the gist of the motion. There are some frequently asked questions that go into a little bit more detail about the motion. So please make sure that you vote, that you encourage your friends who aren't in attendance to vote, that you tell your council folks to vote, your committee members to vote, and please just make sure that everyone votes. In case y'all didn't know, I would like you to vote. At the end of the meeting, Holly Tanner, who's in the back, she will be collecting all of your ballots. If for some reason you need to think about it and you do not fill out a paper ballot before you leave, please make sure that you go online and vote, because otherwise you're going to get an email from me that asks you to vote. So with that, I think I've hit that ad nauseum. With that, I am going to invite Lauren Roberts to come up and talk about leadership interest for next year.
Okay, so after you vote, which comes first, then fill out the leadership survey while you're online. It is available now on the website, and it's basically just a form that you get to mark the areas that interest you to serve next year if you're interested in a leadership position. Really easy to fill out. It has all the various approximately 150 leadership positions. There's tons of them out there. And then there's an area at the top where you can rank what your choices are. And you can also submit the names of other people that you've seen in action that you think would be a good leader, even if you're not sure where they fit in. We say all the time that self-nominating is welcomed at the Junior League. We love people who tell us what they want to do. It makes it so much easier, because otherwise we don't know. And oftentimes what happens is you tell somebody you know, thinking, well, they're going to tell somebody they know, and then it's going to get to the board, and that may not happen. So it's really important that you go fill out the form, tell us what you're interested in doing next year. And like I said, same with someone else. If you know somebody who would be a good leader, You don't have to know specific areas. You don't even have to know specific areas for yourself. Up at the top, you can say, this is the area I'm interested in. Put me where you need me. Or these are the areas that I'm interested in. These are the ones I'm not interested in. That's fine too. But just give us the information so that when we start selecting those positions in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we know that you're interested and that your name is in the hat. Thanks so much.
I'm Emily Norcus, and I'm the chair-elect for Bargain Carousel. Just some important things. We have secured our space. We are back in Hoover where we were last year. We're so excited about that. That's one less thing that we have to worry about. Mark your calendars. We've got Bargain Bash is April 21st. And then the sale is that weekend, the 23rd and 24th. We still need your gently used items. All of our drop-offs going forward are going to be at the space. They're on the calendar. And then if you need to have us pick up any of your items, because we will gladly take your large items, you can fill out a Mighty Man request form on the website. And obviously we need auction items. If you have any leads or people that we could contact that you might think that they would donate something for us, we would greatly appreciate that. And Becky Graham is our auction chair. And those are what we get to look forward to.
And not just because she's sitting in here, but I did want to give a plug to Baptist because they are so graciously donating the space to us once again. And our member is President of Baptist, President and CEO, Amy Allen. So thank you for your generosity. We greatly, greatly appreciate it, and really could not do what we do without the support of fantastic partners such as y'all. And so I got chill bumps and, goosebumps when you're like, yes, y'all may stay. I said, oh, we can all sleep at night. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. It is now my great honor to briefly introduce our speakers because, again, I really don't want to take a ton of time from what they have to say to read you their list of accomplishments, but we really have what I consider a dream team of panelists that are here. A lot of us in this building have had the great privilege and honor of sitting through many meetings, listening to the collaboration that these folks have passionately formed that really is going to transform the way our community is able to address victims and survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. And so it really is so wonderful to have each of them here with us today. So we have Brandon Falls, our current district attorney for Jefferson County. And again, his bio is on the back. I will not read to y'all. Allison Deering is campus violence and prevention coordinator at Crisis Center, recently taken on a new role, and so she'll probably tell you a little bit about that. Meg McGlamory is the current executive director of the Crisis Center, and we also have Jennifer Caraway, who is the director of domestic violence services at the YWCA. And as y'all all know, we have had long-standing partnerships with the Crisis Center and with the YW. We provide you, your volunteer time, effort, and energy, as well as our hard-earned dollars, because these teams and these organizations have proven that they align with our mission, that they're going to do the right things to support our community. And it really is such an honor and an easy decision when we get the requests each year at Community Research to partner with each of these folks. So with that, if you'll please join me in welcoming our 4 panelists.
Well, thank you, Lee, so much for the privilege of being here and sharing about our One Place Family Justice Center that is launching here in Birmingham. We had a great time last night. So many connections in the room. I feel like just as we stood around and had opportunities to share after the meeting, It's an amazing network. We were recruiting nurses and lawyers and psychologists and all kinds of amazing people who are already doing really great things in the community who are stepping up to say, how can I be involved? I could still do this, or can I connect with you in this way? So as I was thinking through leaving here last night and preparing again to be here today, it really is a story about connections, the personal connections that we were making here in this space, the ones that you all already have, the ones that we share on this leadership team. And if you'll indulge me a moment, I know some of you are looking at the bios, but I'll share just very briefly about some of the connections that we have already that we bring to this effort. We want you to have confidence in the leadership as we're launching this in Birmingham. So Jennifer Caraway, who's seated next to me, as Lee said, is Director of Domestic Violence Services at the YWCA. She's a lawyer, and something that we share, each of us, we began our legal careers working for Legal Services, which is a legal corporation that funds local law offices to have attorneys for people who cannot afford to hire an attorney to represent them. And so we both represented victims and survivors of domestic violence as we worked in those separate legal services offices. And so we share a common language, and that is certainly a connection that we have as we have learned what it means to really support survivors of abuse, and we've learned about the courage it takes to go through the process, even if that's a criminal case, and taking that to fruition. And so it's a joy and privilege to get to work with Jennifer in this way. Meg McGlamory is seated next to her, Director of the Crisis Center here in Birmingham, and Meg and I were actually students together at Samford University. We didn't know each other well. Had a chance to reconnect several years ago when we were each invited to speak to a class. And so we walked in the room and kind of looked at each other and said, hey, I recognize you. I think I know you. And then sort of the rest is history. Had an opportunity to collaborate on some projects, and then I ended up coming to work at the Crisis Center 3 years ago. And so Meg has been my boss, and such a wonderful, giving person. And for those of you who know her, easy to talk to and has such great rapport with everyone that she meets. And then Brandon Falls, who is our district attorney. When I was in law school, I had the opportunity to do a clerkship in the DA's office. And Brandon had been there about a year and a half, maybe 2 years at that time, one of several assistant district attorneys. And so to see him really have such success in that office, to be appointed the district attorney, to be elected after that as our district attorney, and to then be on the ballot again this coming November, has just been an amazing thing to watch. And so to get to come back to Brandon a couple of years ago and say, hey, we kind of have this idea, we really want to do something here in Birmingham that looks like this, and to hear him say, absolutely, how can I help? That was the beginning of a much deeper, longer conversation that we're still having. And so we can't thank Brandon enough for the support that he personally has given to this project, but the power of his position and his voice in our community has certainly been something that has helped us move forward. So what are we even talking about, this Family Justice Center? As you know, strong partnerships with the YWCA and the Crisis Center already. But really what this is a best practice. It's an opportunity to say, we already have these great resources in our community, but if there is a way to take it one step further, to bring staff from all of these agencies, to co-locate them in one building under one roof, so hopefully it makes it a little easier to navigate a really difficult process, whether that's criminal or civil court, or just navigating resources that are available. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just bringing everyone together in one space. It's really about making stronger connections for survivors of domestic violence and sexual violence. I think the slide is here. I'll say a word about it. You see the woman and her children in the middle of the slide. And I will say, as I said last night, this is not just an issue that affects women. It disproportionately, obviously, affects women, but 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men in their lifetime will be a victim of physical assault, domestic abuse, or sexual violence. And so when we say those numbers out loud, and then we look around in a space like this, we can say confidently it's not an us and a them kind of problem. It is an us problem, because many of us have been affected personally by the interpersonal violence that we're talking about today. So we also know that this is what it feels like. This is what it looks like to try to walk through the processes, seeking assistance and resources and support and help when you're in crisis, when you have experienced trauma. And so when I saw this slide several years ago, I mean, it's overwhelming to me. Like, I have anxiety just looking at it, and yet I know this is what people experience. And so what we're trying to do is make that a little better, make that this Family Justice Center a place where these resources will be housed together, and support will be available. If you can get one place, if you have one shot to get one place, you can come in these doors and have many of your needs met. And so it is about proximity, but secondly, as many of you know, developing a case, a criminal case or a civil court case, requires investigation and further development and interviews, and a lot of things have to come together over a period of time to bring that case either to a trial or to a plea. And so having all of these representatives housed together, instead of having to set meetings, pick up the phone, can we get together on this day to do this piece of the process? It's totally, as a lawyer, it's so exciting to me to think about all of those people being in one space together, that meetings can be had that same day, right? If you have all of the people who are staffing those cases doing that work together. So this is just a snapshot of what we're dreaming about, what we've been doing over the last year. We started out bringing representatives from each of these agencies together once a month, and just putting the word out, through our own agencies, through Facebook, representatives from the DA's office, Birmingham Police Department, the YWCA, and the Crisis Center will all be here at this one time, and you can come and have any questions answered, just if you want to know about the process, if you wanted to file a police report, if you wanted to set an appointment with a counselor, all of that would be available to you. A few months down the road, we were able to do that twice a month, and then a few months ago, Brandon said, I have space in my office in the Criminal Justice Building, and why are we not doing this once a week? And so that is the progress that we have made, and it feels good to be able to say we have staff who are available in this team collaborative approach every Wednesday. So when I leave here today, I'm headed back there, and there will be people from all the agencies available to assist survivors. And so what we want to do is not once a month, not once a week, but 5 days a week. And that is certainly what we are hoping to launch in the very near future. We have our 501c3 now. That was a process, you can imagine. We have a board of directors, another process that we can check off. We spoke at Leadership Birmingham last year, and someone came forward and said, I know about a property that's about to become available, and if you all are interested, we can have those conversations. So we're very far down the road in hoping to be able to open soon, operating in that space. The other thing that happened, someone from Junior League came to us at Leadership Birmingham and said, you all should apply for Beeson funds. And we said, okay. And so in December, I still have the voicemail from Allison Scott on my phone when she called and said, Allison, I have wonderful news, and I'm calling on behalf of the Junior League. And so thank you for the support already that you have provided that is going to enable us to do this in our community.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for letting me be here this morning and be able to talk to you a little bit about the Family Justice Center and really what it means to me personally, but also what it means to our organization and to the victims of domestic violence in our community. This has been a dream and a vision for all of us for a very, very long time, and to be able to see it kind of come to fruition has just really been exciting. I am very lucky and privileged to work for a domestic violence program that has a whole lot of wraparound services for victims of domestic violence. We are indeed very lucky when I look around the state at other programs who operate. We're so privileged, and a lot of that is due to your support here at the Junior League, and again, we're most appreciative for that. But one of the things that's really been wonderful is now to be able to listen to my staff at the YWCA when a victim calls and they need services, and we talk about safety planning and the things that we are able to offer. And now, instead of saying, okay, you need to go to this place, you need to go to that place, you need to go to this place, and you need to be able to do this because I know you're working, trying to make a living because you're now separated from your abuser, and you have 4 kids you're trying to get into childcare, and you only have an hour for lunch, but I want you to do all of these things, and there is an exhaustive list of things that you need to be able to do to take care of this case, to be able to protect yourself and your children. Because in our community here in Jefferson County, our system is very fragmented, and I don't know if anybody is really aware of exactly what that looks like. So a victim could have a divorce case in domestic relations court. They could also have a protection order in family court, which is down on 2nd Avenue North. And they could also have 1 or 2 different criminal cases in different municipalities or in a county court. So they could be required to go to 2 or 3 different courts just within Jefferson County. A lot of victims aren't aware of why they need to go to each court and what happens at each one. So to be able to do this when you're struggling through trauma and through a crisis, all in a very small amount of time, sometimes what happens is victims just give up. They say, I just can't do this anymore. This is just too hard. And sometimes they go back to their abuser. And sometimes they just decide, well, I'm just going to try and make it on my own, and I'm not going to keep my protection order, or I can't go through with this divorce. So to now be able to hear our staff say, wait a minute, here's what you can do. You can go down to the Criminal Justice Building on Wednesday, and in a matter of an hour, during your lunch break, you can be able to talk to all of these people that I once, 2 years ago, told you to go down to 7 different places, because you can get all the information at a one-stop shop here in Jefferson County. So that is really so exciting for our clients that we serve. It makes such a difference in their lives, and it's just really fantastic to see that happening, what we're able to do in our community. The other thing I just wanted to share is really what we've learned from each other with these collaborations. We've always been partners. I think we've always worked well together and worked together. But to be able to work, these past year and a half together and learn from each other, to learn more about each other's agencies, our policies and procedures, what each agency can do for a victim or survivor. And now our staffs are able to go back to our agencies and say, hey, this is what the Crisis Center does. This is what Rape Response does and can do, and share it with everybody so that when a survivor calls, we have that information ready. We don't have to say, okay, now you need to hang up from the YW and now call the Crisis Center, because we have that information. We have enough to share to be able to let them know what exactly they need to do. So I want to also add that piece, is this has been such a learning experience for me personally, and just really have appreciated all of our collaboration and the support and the vision of everybody that's been a part of this Family Justice Center dream.
Hello. It's really an honor to be here. I've always loved coming to the Junior League, and y'all have been so supportive of our rape response and sexual assault nurse examiner programs. And those are tough subjects. These are tough subjects. So the fact that y'all are willing to take them on is very impressive, and we appreciate it. I cheesed out a little bit after last night thinking about our time together, and I went back to Sanford to undergrad days, and I thought about my time with Panhellenic. And there was a T-shirt we had one year. I know, you can relate, right? Okay. Yes. And it was a bouquet of flowers. And we had a saying on it, and y'all have all heard this: individually unique, together complete. And so I really thought about how that is what One Place Family Justice Center is all about. Individually, we're providing services that are crucial to these survivors. We do those very well. We're very proud of that. We want to let y'all know that. But really, what this has brought for us is the opportunity to do better. So we can continue our services like we will, but with one place, we improve our services. So to give an example of that from the point of view of what we do at the Crisis Center with rape response and SANE. Oftentimes, we get that call on our 24-hour hotline. We serve people 14 years and older who've experienced sexual violence. So that caller may be the survivor. It may be the friend of the survivor. It could be a law enforcement officer or somebody from our hospitals that we collaborate with so closely. We're providing options for that survivor, whether that happened 5 minutes ago or 100 years ago. If that survivor has been sexually assaulted and wants to come in for an exam, they come to the Crisis Center where we have nurses who are trained to collect that forensic evidence. And what often happens, I would say half of the time, that person is not ready to file a police report. They don't have to file a police report if they so choose. But they come in and there's an advocate there. And I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to read between the lines. It came out yesterday. Blakely Nash did a story about her experience as an advocate. She's been placed with the Crisis Center Rape Response Program and did a beautiful job highlighting what that experience is like. So what someone like Blakely does, sits there with the survivor to provide options, to empower them to make choices. And we'll say, if you feel ready to file a police report, we can call that jurisdiction and have them come in, and we'll be here with you as you file that report. That client often says, okay, y'all are here, okay, I can do that. I'd like to do that. Because we in this room know that a perpetrator usually doesn't do that one time. Someone who perpetrates this crime is going to do it again and again. And what we would like this table in this room is to prosecute those individuals so they don't have that opportunity to hurt more people. So we get on the phone, right, and we call that jurisdiction, and they don't have enough people to send someone out. That's a normal, understandable problem that happens. So we're faced with, okay, now we have to send the survivor the next day or when she feels ready to go, and what is that experience going to be like? This changes the game. This allows that survivor to have that law enforcement present right there on the spot, to file that report with somebody who is understanding and empathetic and understanding about the trauma that that survivor is going through. Not only that, there's a DA that's present to help explain what happens next. There is so much that happens after a sexual assault or domestic violence situation. How can you really absorb all of that when you're in trauma? So it may be that that survivor is not ready to file a report that day, but the Family Justice Center is going to be there. And when they are ready, they can come back and they have this whole team of people to help them through the process. And so that is why the Crisis Center is proud to be part of this project. It is so exciting, to work together, to collaborate. And we're already seeing the impact now through our pilot project and now getting started with our 501c3. We are seeing survivors come back and thanking us for that time that they have with all these different partners at one time. So thank you. We're really excited, as you can tell, jazz hands. Okay, bye.
Good morning. First of all, again, thank you. I know we've all said it, but we each mean it. It's heartfelt appreciation from each of us because we've been working on this project and we're now seeing it actually take flight. It's extremely gratifying to see that what we've done is actually beginning to pay off. We've gotten grants from all of you, from the Community Foundation. We've received a building that has been practically donated to us. And so moving forward, we've got to get that building ready to accept victims on a daily basis and go through everything that you've heard, provide those resources in one location. I'm the district attorney. That means I'm a prosecutor. And I take the case once those reports are made, once the investigation is completed, and I take that forward with an eye towards trial. law enforcement, prosecutors, we want someone to be held responsible when they commit a crime. And with domestic violence in particular, there are so many reasons for a victim to decide not to follow through with the prosecution, whether that is financial reasons, whether that is children, job, whether that's embarrassment, whether that's religious or family pressure. There are literally dozens upon dozens of reasons why someone may say, I don't want to go forward with this process. And there are times when they come to us as the prosecutors and say, I don't want to go forward, or it didn't happen the way the officer wrote it in the report. I started it. It was my fault. And I really don't know in that situation whether they're telling me the truth at that point. The research and experience indicates to me that they're scared. They've decided not to go forward for some other reason, and perhaps to save face, maybe for fear of what could happen to them in the criminal justice process. They make up a story as to why the case should not move forward. We try to give a victim every opportunity possible to testify and allow us to prosecute the case. We have the approach that we have to protect everyone, even those who won't protect themselves. And in particular, because we have seen the long-term effects. We have seen what happens on occasion when a victim decides not to go forward. We've seen them re-victimized when they return to that relationship, return to that marriage. And we've seen extremely, extremely violent results. So we want to make sure that that victim is prepared in every way possible. The victim receives every resource possible from the beginning so that they'll be able to make that decision knowingly, intelligently, and with the support that it's going to require. And if they decide not to go forward, then I, as the DA, want to make sure that they're protected, that those resources are available to them so that they don't want to go forward with the prosecution. Okay, I understand that. I've been doing this for 18 years. I understand why you may not want to go forward. But I want to make sure that you have the resources if you want to leave the relationship, if you have to get a job, if you have to get a checking account, a bank account, if you want to find child care, whatever it is that you need, I need to be assured that those resources are available to you. And that's part of what I want out of this collaboration. I want to make victims safer. A victim of a sexual assault, fortunately, is more often willing to go forward with that crime and see it, with that prosecution and see it to fruition. I've seen all types of cases. I've seen sexual assault in dating relationships, in marriage, in divorce, when someone's going through a divorce. And I've seen complete stranger sexual assaults where someone was literally grabbed off the street. That is not just every woman's worst nightmare. That's everyone's worst nightmare. The feeling that something like that could ever happen to someone in our community. And just like a victim of domestic violence, I need to make sure that a victim of sexual assault has the resources and the support to go through with that case. Jefferson County has, as you know, many municipalities, many jurisdictions. Our most of our cases are the felony cases that happen in Jefferson County. Those are the higher level of crimes: robbery, rape, assault, drug cases. Domestic violence can be both a felony and a misdemeanor. If it's a misdemeanor charge, domestic violence third degree, it might go to a city court, Birmingham Municipal Court, Vestavia, Gardendale. And I'll never see that case. I will never see that case. It's prosecuted in the city court. I want to make sure that those victims have the same access to resources that the victims of a felony case would have. And there is a level of difficulty there when you're dealing with the state court as opposed to the city courts. And Family Justice Center can provide that conduit, that one place where no matter where it happens to you, no matter what happens to you, you can go get those resources, get a report started, talk to counselors, talk to an officer, talk to a prosecutor, and know what's going to happen in the days, weeks, months ahead. Because a misdemeanor case can take several months to reach either trial or a plea. A felony case can take 8 months to a year and a half. That's a long time for a victim to just be out there on their own, having to coordinate the resources themselves. And so again, I want to say thank you for what you've done already for us. I hope that there are other partnerships that we can put together in the future. This is certainly going to be a long-term endeavor. This is a best practices. This is a best practice across the country. I mean, I believe it started in San Diego, and there's about 100 family justice centers all around the country. So they've already proven that it can work, that it does work well, that it does help victims, that it does help the prosecution. Alabama has 2 already. Montgomery was first, and then Florence was second. So we won't even be the first in Alabama, but we will be the best. But we can't do so without the support of the community. We just can't. This is not going to work without all these agencies, and not just these agencies, but as we identify other resources that are needed, that we bring them into the fold and find them a place in our building. And then funding, of course, that will be our one of our primary focuses, obviously, going forward. So thank you for what you've already done for us, and I look forward to the future working with you.
Well, so this was a snapshot of what we obviously are passionate about and feel very personally invested in its success here in the community. So I don't know if you all have questions or if there's even time for that, Lee, but certainly if you do, if something came up for you while we were talking, this would be a great time to ask your question.
And Lee hinted at this earlier, and I'll just throw this out quick. Allison is now our executive director, and so congratulations, Allison.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
That just means she's got a lot of work to do.
Do you anticipate adding childcare as a resource in the future, or have you already explored that? Not like a daycare center, but I don't like taking my 3-year-old anywhere, much less somewhere where you're trying to go through a huge event in your life and trying to figure out all these things. Would that be an option going forward?
I think certainly we recognize that as a need, and thinking back to days when I was practicing law, cases that had to be continued because my client said, I have no one to keep my child and I'm not bringing them to court with me, or I had to bring my kids to court, and where are they going to sit while we're in the courtroom? So clearly that is a very tangible, real need. And I think there are, first of all, opportunities for us to explore what other family justice centers have done in that regard. And we're dreaming big. So I don't know today how to answer that specifically, but I think we're going to be about meeting the needs of people and supporting them, and childcare has certainly always been one that has come up. I don't know if you all have other thoughts about that, but
We've had to do a makeshift childcare once in a while when a victim comes to court, and my victim witness services officers take on that role as temporary babysitters. So it's a good addition. That certainly, if we get plenty of volunteers.
any other questions or comments?
Can you just speak to the statistics for our state and in particular Jefferson County?
So one of the reasons why domestic violence is such an important focus for everyone seated up here today, Alabama, unfortunately, is usually in the top of states in the country with domestic violence deaths where a woman is a victim of that crime. Jefferson County is usually first in the state of Alabama. So you hear in all different walks, different terms, there are certain categories where we don't want to be at the top of the list, and that is one where we unfortunately fall in the top year after year. So trying to put this together in such a way that we can fight domestic violence, that we can reduce it somewhere down the line. One of the things I talked about last night that I didn't mention today, but I will now, is when you are a victim of a robbery, when someone comes up and grabs your purse and runs away, when someone breaks into your car and steals it, when someone breaks into your house and steals something, you probably never saw that person unless you're a robbery victim, and you'll probably, hopefully, never see them again. When you're a victim of domestic violence, you see them before you go to bed, and you see them when you get up in the morning. And a victim of domestic violence, on average, suffers as a victim 5 to 7 times, 5 to 7 events, before they ever make the decision to leave. So domestic violence is very, very different. Sexual assault is very, very different than every other crime because of the personal nature of it, the trauma, the amount of counseling that it requires. I've spoken to victims who not just for these other reasons, but sometimes just the embarrassment of going through it. To put it in very stark terms, imagine going to trial and sitting in front of a jury, 12 people, and talking about being a victim of sexual assault in front of 12 people that you've never seen before. Not to mention in front of the person that did it, because they are there in the courtroom and have a right to confront you. And that is a scary, scary proposition for anyone. And in addition to the services we want to be able to provide at the front end, there are those services on the day of trial. Someone to go to court with you. And that's something that the YWCA does now, is try to have an advocate to go to these municipal courts and to go to state court and have someone there so that when they look out in the courtroom, they see a familiar face, a reassuring face. And that is part and parcel of what this project seeks to do. I got a little bit off of what you were talking about. Yes.
My name is Eve Gray, and myself and Neil Vegas were co-chairs of Children in Crisis at the YWCA. So we know personally the wonderful work that Amanda and Mary Jane do, as well as yourself. And just hearing everything that you have to say, and knowing, Neely and I see the mothers' faces when they drop their children off and pick them up, knowing that they're thankful that we're there for a couple of hours to help their children through what they're going through at home and hopefully start to break that cycle. But just knowing what you all are doing and knowing how that's going to affect the moms that we see every Monday night, I just want to thank you for that.
Well, we can't do it without you, so thank you in the Junior League for that. And I think Amanda told me, because we just received our new Children in Crisis grant this year, I think the Junior League has supported this program for like 15 to 20 years. It's absolutely amazing. And this is one of the great services that we're able to offer. And, and in looking to what we vision for our future, maybe that is something that, would be a great component of One Place Family Justice Center as well. So thank you.
Could you read the second part? Who wants to tackle?
Well, I'm certainly not an expert of why. I know, you know, and this is really interesting. I'm in the middle of a grant writing haze, I'm going to call it, because I've had 3 grants due in the last 5 days. But as part of that grant writing process is pulling together the information to why we need federal funds to come into our community to assist with services. But what that reminds me, you know, some of the things that we look at are our state's poverty rate, our illiteracy rate, unemployment rate. So those are not causes of domestic violence, but those are indeed factors to consider when looking at domestic violence in our community. So those are some of the things. I think certainly in the South particularly, and in a lot of our rural communities, where domestic violence is not discussed and not talked about, and there is not a lot of awareness, as you mentioned, but also not a lot of available resources in these pockets of geographical isolation. So I think that contributes to it as well.
You also have a child who grows up in a home and witnesses domestic violence is at a greater risk of perpetrating or being a victim of domestic violence. So there's certainly a cyclical aspect to it that law enforcement and all groups and advocates who work with domestic violence victims are trying to break. Just, you know, in my experience of seeing cases themselves, I'd say there is and appears to be a certain lack of understanding of how to react or how to act in a relationship, and certainly a lot of young men who just can't take no for an answer, and it doesn't matter what the situation is. Maybe it's a control, but just not knowing how to react to that, and whether that's as a result of being a witness to it or not having a strong family unit that served as an example for them growing up. But it's sometimes the things I see are just shocking because they're so unbelievable that someone would react in a certain way to something as simple as go home. You've had too much to drink. I don't want to deal with you right now. Leave. And I've seen young men not be able to just do that, to just say, okay, that's it. I need to leave here, and react in extremely violent ways. It's trying to find an exact explanation as to why it happens is extremely difficult. But there's certainly those factors that go into it and help perpetuate it.
I'll follow up just very briefly about the public awareness campaign. As the campus coordinator for our campus violence prevention project that I've been involved with the last 3 years on college campuses here, we have embraced the No More campaign. Are you all familiar with that? I mean, they had an ad right after the halftime show in the Super Bowl, as they did last year. And so I'm thrilled to see that kind of visibility, that you're at a party and everybody gets quiet, right, because we're watching the commercials, and then there's an opportunity there and someone says, hey, isn't that what you do, kind of, and then there you go. I mean, the conversation starts. So I will say, I mean, that is one of the best campaigns that I have had the opportunity to be involved in. We've created a Facebook page around the campaign, No More Birmingham, and so we share articles, we share prevention tips, all kinds of things, and I do believe that conversation has shifted, and we've made progress in just being able to talk about some of the things that are really hard to share.
I just want to switch back to your asking about statistics in particular, but just want to say, kind of to put it in perspective, at the YWCA we receive incident offense reports, which are police reports from the city of Birmingham on incidents involving domestic violence, so that we're able to contact the victims and offer services. But we receive between 800 and 1,200 domestic violence police reports a month. So if that gives you some idea about how prevalent this is in our community, I mean, I think that is really telling, and certainly we need to do something about that. And I think this project and this collaboration will certainly assist. So I just wanted to offer that as a good statistic for our community. Bad statistic, really.
Did I shock you? Got great technical support, so thank you very much. It really, I learn something new every time I'm in your presence, and really it's so impactful to have you all here. We have a small token of our appreciation for your time, so I would like to share that with y'all. Very formal, that's for Brandon. Give you the pass. That's Allison. Jennifer. And Meg. So thank y'all. It's really, I think from the interest last night and the questions last night and your wonderful questions today, it's clearly an issue as an organization that advocates and volunteers on behalf of women and children. Is an important issue for us to remain mindful of. It's why we've had long-standing partnerships and collaborations with the YW and the Crisis Center, and will continue to do so. But something that Meg said really struck a chord with me, and it really relates in a different way to our theme for the year. And so our theme this year is the spirit of one and the impact of many, which is a different way to say individually unique and together complete. And I think when you look at the collaboration that is formed on this panel and think about the work that we have the great privilege to do, it's that spirit of each one of us going out with our own time and talents and just making sure that someone is aware and informed and understands the wonderful things that are happening and the resources that are available to us. So let's use our own individuality and our uniqueness to make sure that people understand that what's happening together in our community. So again, thanks just don't even adequately describe how grateful we are that you came and shared this wonderful story with us. And one last thing, what is it going to be? Thank you. Please go vote. Holly will collect your ballots, and we will look forward to seeing y'all in March. Hopefully, we are going to go to the Lyric Theater, so get a fun tour of the revitalization and renovation there. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you.